Okay, cool. Alrighty. So our group chose to do the Neotropical region, which consists of South America and parts of Central America. And so for my extinct mammal, I chose the giant ground sloth, Megatherium americanum. They inhabited the southern part of South America during the Pleistocene period, which is present-day Argentina and Uruguay. And during the Pleistocene, Argentina experienced cool, dry climate. So these guys were considered more adapted to this temperate, arid habitat. A 1996 study by McFadden and colleagues, they did a study on isotopic composition of high-crowned mammals or hypsodont mammals. And they indicated that the giant ground sloth inhabited a more mixed grassland or browser ecosystem. But the main study that I focused on was by Susanna Bargo in 2001. She looked into skull and jaw morphology of M. americanum and compared it to another giant ground sloth, G. robustum, and the present-day three-toed sloth. And so she found that the skull of Megatherium americanum was more cylindrical compared to other sloths of the Pleistocene. And as you can see, their teeth are pretty much molar shaped, very high crowned or hypsodont, whereas G. robustum, that other giant ground sloth, had more caniniform teeth. And this degree of high crowned teeth or hypsodonty was greater in M. americanum than in any of the other ground sloths. And so she hypothesized that the skull is shaped differently in this ground sloth to accommodate for that high degree of hypsodonty. And then she also measured bite force and found that M. americanum had a larger bite force compared to its relatives, which indicated that it wasn't designed for rapid jaw movement. It was more focused on that very strong, powerful bite. Their teeth is also bilophodont, which indicates that the jaw movements were more vertical, with an emphasis on crushing and puncturing. And so because of this, M. americanum's teeth were best suited for consuming a variety of like soft to moderately tough food, based on a 1985 study by Jaime and Crompton, which kind of compared tooth shape to different types of food. So based on this evidence and the environmental conditions of the Pleistocene, the ground sloth, M. americanum, was mainly herbivorous, so ate on things such as nuts and fruit, had kind of like that mortar and pestle kind of system, but did eat carrion to kind of supplement its diet. So it does have kind of slightly blade-shaped teeth on the bottom as well that could kind of cut through that soft tissue. So really, really cool.
So my name is Caitlin Schultz, and I did my little research project on dirus, an Neotropic region, more commonly known as the dire wolf. So their origin, their scientific name translated literally means terrible wolf, and they popped up in the Pleistocene epoch. And a study in 2021 examining their lineage determined that they have a New World origin. This is a little bit different than other wolves who are thought. 2021 study also found that there was a partial jawbone in China. So it's thought that beyond dominating the Neotropic region, that they were also in North America and they crossed the Bering Land Bridge into Asia. So when we look at their lineage, they were originally thought to be part of the Canis family. A recent study from 2021 determined otherwise. When looking at have a family all of their own little branch over here. So if you look at the red on this image, they have their own branch with the African jackals having their own branch and all other species having a different branch. So they are more closely related to today's jackals than they are to today's gray wolves or coyotes or things that we kind of think look like them. And this is thought to be some convergent evolution, that the Canis family was around at the same time in the same area and developed similarly without them having that genetic crossover. Their likely prey is thought to be horses. A 2021 study looked at isotopic analysis of their fossils and determined that horses were their main prey. However, they are also thought to have eaten ground sloth, bison, and camels. They weren't really specialists like the cats were at this time. Saber-toothed tiger predator at this time, and they were much more specialized in their prey selection. When we examine size, they were thought to be much larger than today's wolves, more like a saber-toothed tiger size, and they had larger teeth, a bigger skull, but a smaller brain. This is interesting that they look so similar, being that they don't have that lineage genetically. And these are my references.
I'm gonna go in reverse. Okay. Okay. I looked at the Hippidian as my extinct species researched in the Neotropical region. Little horse. The Hippidian is in the Equidae family, so the same as modern day horses, zebras, and donkeys. They lived 2.5 million years ago until their extinction approximately 10,000 years ago during the late Pleistocene and megafaunal extinction. The Hippidian and Equus were two groups of equids that lived in this region during the Pleistocene, but they are in different clades due to dental, cranial, and postcranial characteristics that separate them into being the different. The Hippidian and Equus do share a common ancestor, the North American Philohippus, and it's believed that they split from that common ancestor about 10 million years ago, which would have been during the late Miocene. Postcranial analysis has distinct species of the Hippidian. The H. principale and the H. saldiaci were the two most similar genetically, and then there was a more specialized species, the Devili, which was more specialized to living in higher elevations. So the principale was a more robust species that inhabited what is now the Argentinian pampas or lowlands, grasslands. The saldiaci was the smallest, and it kind of ranged from what's now Patagonia through the Southwest Andes. And the Devili was an intermediately sized one that was located throughout the central Andes. So skull and feces have been discovered and analyzed. And the feces show that their diet primarily consisted of grasslands and kind of woody substances, which fits with the habitat they were in and also is reflected in the shape of their teeth and jaw. It was found in northern Chile, and it's estimated that this, when alive, it had a body mass of 326 kilograms, or about 720 pounds, which is approximately the same size as our present day donkey. And there's an artist rendition of what they probably looked like and references.
Sweet.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Lee Brand, and I'm going to talk about the giant vampire bat, Desmodus draculae. And it's a species that was around as far back, or at least as far back as the late Pleistocene, and existed into the late Holocene. There are fossil records that indicate that it was around, and also as recent as 3,000 years ago, according to one source. I'm not entirely sure about that estimate. It seems kind of recent, but we can say it was around from the late Pleistocene to the late Holocene. And fossils were found in Mexico, Brazil, Venezuela, and Argentina. And a very recent Argentina find turned out to be very important because it revealed that the Desmodus draculae existed or occupied some mid-latitude areas in Argentina, which was previously unknown. So it is a larger species, but otherwise it's pretty morphologically similar to the existing vampire bat species we have still around today. It's a micropredator, which means it just kind of takes tissue, in this case blood, out of its prey. It doesn't actually kill the prey. And ultimately, it's not really that huge of a species. But may not be the best word for it. So yeah, just to go back to the geologic time scale, we're talking about the late Pleistocene into the late Holocene. So it's went extinct sometime after the large mammal extinctions caused by humans, or thought to be caused by humans, and so that probably played a role in the extinction of the giant vampire bat. So it's about 25 to 30% larger than Desmodus rotundus, which is a species that's still around, a vampire species still around, that feeds on some native species in the New World, but also mainly feeds on cattle and other hoofed animals, other farmed animals. The Desmodus draculae has a 20-inch wingspan, and it weighs just about 2 ounces, and it feeds entirely on blood. Blood is its entire diet. Like other vampire bats, it has, or is thought to have, thermoreceptors on its nose, which can help it to detect blood. But what really distinguishes it from other existing species is just its size, and with that size, it would have a larger energetic requirement than the species that are still around today. And we're not entirely sure kind of how it evolved, but the likely guess is that it was previously nectivore, feeding in a different way, and then it just kind of adapted to, took an opportunity or adapted to whatever conditions, and it took on the features that it has today. So here's some more about the taxonomy. Chiroptera order refers to bats, and that's a very diverse group of species. The Desmodus draculae is in the Philostomidae family, which refers to the New World leaf nose bats, and it's also in the Desmodontinae subfamily. And you can see kind of that cladogram on the left, and also on the right, you can see how bats are sometimes distinguished by their morphological features, their skulls, and their skulls are thought to reflect the diet and the feeding strategies and the foraging strategies of the specific species. So you can see some bats have these kind of long snouts that are more equipped to help them get into certain vegetation, but with the Desmodus, we're talking more of like a shorter kind of compact skull, and its most important features are going to be its ability to kind of puncture in and also to kind of latch onto it while it feeds. And like I mentioned before, there's a lot of uncertainty about the evolutionary history of bats in general. There have been bat-like species that are thought to have existed about as long ago as 50 million years ago. But there are a lot of gaps in our knowledge about how those species evolved from that point on. But there are some theories about how Desmodus draculae may have gone extinct. One possible factor were co-extinctions, and it's thought that the large megafauna of the Pleistocene and Holocene were its likely prey. And people think that because there are Desmodus draculae fossils found together with megafauna fossils in certain caves and some certain other sites. And so it's possible that it fed on sloths and horses and other big animals that you see, on the right there in those pictures. And so with the Pleistocene and Holocene, that represented the loss of prey for the Desmodus draculae. And perhaps it was not able to transition to a different kind of prey, largely because the larger Desmodus draculae had larger energetic requirements that smaller prey couldn't really fulfill. So that's one possible factor. Another possible factor in its extinction was climate change, and which could have contracted the range of the Desmodus draculae. We know that it was existing in mid-latitude areas like Argentina, parts of Argentina during the interglacial period, which was warm. But as cooler temperatures set in at that area, it made conditions inhospitable for the Desmodus draculae. In particular, cave temperatures would have been too cold for them, and also cave humidity would not have been right. And so shrinking its range in that way, combined with the extinctions of its prey in other areas, those two factors combined probably played a big role in the extinction of the Desmodus draculae. So that's it.
Right.
Thank you.